Good evening and welcome. I'm calling to order the Cottage Grove Planning Commission regular meeting from March 25th, 2020. First order of business will be roll call.
All right, Commissioner Nabel. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Nabel. Commissioner Nabel, if you could unmute yourself and state here. Can you hear me, Commissioner Nabel?
Speaker. Click if you want to switch to a different microphone or speaker.
Commissioner Wright.
Oh,
Commissioner Wright, are you here?
This is Jared. I'm here.
Okay. Commissioner Frazier, sorry.
okay, we'll come and listen to him.
Here.
Commissioner Britton.
Oh, come and listen.
Here.
Commissioner Rasmussen.
Commissioner Rasmussen here.
Commissioner Bigham. Commissioner Bigham, are you here?
Here.
Okay, thank you. I'll try Commissioner Nabel once again. Let me see, he's on.
Commissioner Knable was on. We'll give him one more shot here.
Sorry, Commissioner Knable, you're here? I see he's on, so I think, we can mark him as present. And then finally, Chair Kambata.
Here. Next item is approval of the agenda.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we do have an additional item that we'd like to add. That'd be an item 6.5, and that's the continuation of case 2020-014, which is a variance request to the April 27th, 2020 meeting. We need.
Okay, so we've got that amendment to the agenda. If there's no objection to that, I'll look for a roll call.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Oh, Mr. Chair, we actually have to go through
Aye.
the formal roll call because of the virtual meeting, so.
Right, and then don't you, oh yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yep, so I have to go through the list again. So again, Commissioner Knable. Commissioner Wright.
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Aye.
Commissioner Rasmussen. Commissioner Rasmussen, vote on the agenda. Commissioner Britton.
Aye.
Commissioner Bigham. Chair Kambata.
Aye.
And we'll go back to Commissioner Rasmussen. We have a majority, so we'll take the vote on that. Thanks.
Okay. Item number 4 on our agenda is open forum. This is an opportunity for anyone to speak on a topic that is not already on tonight's agenda. Anyone interested in talking must state their name and address for the record. Because this evening's meeting is being conducted virtually, I'm going to provide some special instructions on how to participate in this hearing. For anyone using Zoom, post a question using the Q&A option. If you post a question, I will state the question to the Planning Commission and staff, and we will address the question accordingly. To use the raise my hand option, if you wish to verbally ask a question, please test your device's microphone prior to selecting the raise my hand option to assure that you will be heard. I'll then call on you by name and ask the question. Please understand that once the question is asked, you will be muted. If you have follow-up questions, please reselect the raise my hand question to ask additional questions. So at this time, anybody wishing to ask or address an item that's not already on tonight's agenda, please raise your hand or type in that question and we can proceed accordingly.
Nope. Give it just another minute here. Okay, I think we're good.
Next on to item number 5, Chair's explanation of benefits. Explanation of the hearing process, my apologies. The Planning Commission is a volunteer advisory group to the City Council. One of the Commission's functions is to hold public hearings and make recommendations on land use and zoning matters. The purpose of these public hearings is to provide an opportunity for each applicant and citizens to present information, ask questions, and express opinions. Since these proceedings are televised and recorded for the public record, anyone wishing to speak must provide their name and address before addressing the Commission. Staff reports are prepared and provided to the applicant and Planning Commission in advance of the meeting. The first step in the hearing will be for staff to present a summary of the report. The applicant will then have an opportunity to briefly explain the proposal and provide additional information or comment. Anyone wanting to speak in favor or against the proposal will then be heard. Since tonight's meeting is being conducted virtually, again, before the public hearing process, I will give direction on how to participate. Upon completion of the testimony, the hearing will be closed to the public comments. The Planning Commission will then discuss and act on the matter. The City Council will act on the agenda item 6.2, AT&T antennas, at their meeting on Wednesday, April 1st, 2020. All other agenda items will be acted on by the City Council at their meeting on Wednesday, April 15th, 2020, which starts at 7 p.m. Now on to item 6.1, Galloway Accessory Structure, Conditional Use Permit 2020-018, with Emily Schmitz presenting.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners out there in the vast unknown. The first item this evening is a application submitted by Mr. and Mrs. Galloway. It is a request for a conditional use permit to allow a total of 3,500 square feet of accessory structure space on their property, as well as expansion of a legal non-conforming use. Their property is located in the southeast corner of the city. It is just north of Highway 61 off of Manning Avenue. The existing house and older agricultural buildings that are on the site were part of the original farmstead. The ag buildings have been maintained and are currently considered per our zoning code to be what we call a legal nonconformity. Therefore, it can be maintained. It just cannot be expanded without the issuance of a CUP. The existing structures on the site include the north ag structure, which is approximately 2,400 square feet. It's a type of loafing shed, so a portion of the shed is open, a dirt floor, definitely an agricultural structure. The south ag structure is approximately 2,100 square feet. Again, both of these are legal non-conforming structures. And then there is a 500 square foot storage shed on the parcel as well. So the proposal would be to remove this southerly existing ag building and construct a new 3,000 square foot building. The property owner would also maintain the 500 square foot shed, as well as maintain the north ag building as well as a legal nonconformity on the site. The CUP would cover the total 3,500 square feet that would be on the site, not including that remaining legal nonconforming structure. And I'll make note that that nonconforming structure, once removed from the site, cannot be replaced. So as you can see, the applicant currently, there's 3 separate parcels. They have indicated their intent to combine all 3 parcels into one parcel. So this south property line would be considered a side property line. Therefore, a total of a 50-foot side yard setback would be required. And how we come to that 50-foot side yard setback is the initial 20-foot required setback, plus the zoning code requires an additional 5 feet for each additional 100 square feet of accessory storage structure space requested. So in this case, it's an additional 1,000 feet, so it's an additional 10 feet on top of that original setback. I'll also indicate, the applicant has indicated he would be, the location of the structure would more than meet that minimum setback. So with that, I'll leave the recommendation before you, and if there are any questions, I am available. I know the applicant is listening in, whether he has the ability to add information. We can certainly find out.
Okay, thank you. At this time, would the applicant like to add any comment or information to the application? All right, I'm not seeing anyone chime in. At this time, does the commission have anything to add for the applicant or for staff? Okay. Seeing none, then, I will open public hearing. And again, for anyone in attendance using Zoom, post the question using the Q&A option. If you do that, I can read the question aloud, and we can address it. Or if you'd like, use the raise my hand option, and we can get that question asked as well. I'll give us a minute here. Okay, seeing none, we will close public hearing. At this time, I'll look for further questions or comment from the commission. Seeing none, I'll look for a motion.
This is Commissioner Britton. Motion to approve.
I have a
Subject
motion.
to the conditions stipulated in the staff report.
I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Britton, subject to approve, subject to the conditions stipulated in the staff report. Do I have a second?
Second from Commissioner Bigham.
I have a second from Commissioner Bigham. At this time, I'll look for roll call.
Commissioner Britton.
Aye.
Commissioner Bigham.
Aye.
Commissioner Knable. Commissioner Wright.
Aye.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Wright. Sorry, was that Commissioner Wright? Commissioner Frazier?
Aye.
Commissioner Rasmussen?
Aye.
Chair Kambata?
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. 6-1. On to item 6.2, AT&T antennas on 72nd Street Water Tower, conditional use permit 2020-019.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the application before you is a conditional use permit amendment, which would allow for the replacement of some equipment as well as the addition of some equipment on the Pine Hill Water Tower. This application was received by AT&T. So the water tower location is within the Pine Hill neighborhood. It is just ultimately south of the Pine Hill Elementary, and I suppose we could call it just west of the passive area of Hamlet Park. The initial approval for AT&T to install equipment on this water tower was in 1999. Again, a CUP is required for the addition or the request for additional equipment on these water towers. So as I mentioned, and this image gives a good idea of what it looks like now and what the additional equipment will look like on the water tower. Again, it's the proposal for 9 additional radios. They would swap the same number of antennas, so remove those antennas and replace with updated antennas. New coax cable that would run up the water tower, as well as installation of a new handrail at the top of the water tower. This image gives a better idea. This top image shows what that water tower equipment looks like now. The bottom image shows the new guardrail with that equipment on the guardrail, which does need to be engineered, of course, to support that proposed equipment. I should also make note that all of the equipment and the guardrail, including the coax cable, will need to be painted to match the water tower so we don't have anything sticking out like a sore thumb. So with that, I will leave the recommendation before you, but of course I'm here for any questions, and I believe the applicant is here as well to potentially answer some questions.
Thank you. At this time, would any members of the commission like to add any question or comment for staff? Okay, thank you. And then if the applicant would like to add any information or context to the application, they may do so. All right, at this time, I will open public hearing. As stated before, anyone wishing to comment or ask a question may use Zoom and post a question using the Q&A option. We can then read the question aloud and address it, or you can use the raise my hand option. And if you're going to do that, please make sure that your microphone is functioning, and we can select you that way as well. All right, looks like no takers on this one, so we will close public hearing. Additional question or comment from the commission?
This is Derek Rasmussen. I've got one quick question.
Go ahead.
I just want to confirm it. It appears most of the new construction is on top of the water tower. There will be new cabling ran down to the ground. It appears there's no additional sheds or structures on the ground. They're going to use the existing. I just want to confirm there's no additional construction on the ground.
Yep, Commissioner Rasmussen, I can verify they're not proposing any additional structures on the site.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional question or comment from the commission? Okay, with that, I will look for a motion.
Motion to approve item 6.2.
Name?
Is Commissioner Wright.
We have a motion to approve, subject to the conditions stipulated in the staff report from Commissioner Wright. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Knabel, seconds.
Okay. At this time, I'll look to roll call.
All right. Commissioner Wright.
Aye.
Commissioner Knabel.
Aye.
Commissioner Frazier.
Aye.
Commissioner Rasmussen.
Aye.
Commissioner Britton.
Aye.
Commissioner Bigham.
Aye.
And Chair Combato.
Aye.
Well-oiled machine, thank you.
Motion passes 7-0. On to item 6.3, Langdon Hills. It's zoning amendment 2020-020 and preliminary plat 2020-021. Distinctive Design Build LLC has applied for a zoning amendment to rezone approximately 25 acres of land, with Emily Schmidt presenting.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, this is my final one, I promise. Again, the item before you is a application submitted by Distinctive Build Design. Their request is for a zoning amendment for approximately 25 acres. It would be rezoning from R1, or rural residential, to R3, which is single family, with a PUD. They also have submitted application for a preliminary plat, proposal for 51 residential single-family lots. This parcel is located just north of 65th Street and to the west of Hinton Avenue and the existing Silverwood neighborhood. It's also just south of the under construction Eastbrook neighborhood to the north. The majority of the site is tilled field. There are a handful of treed buffers along some of the property lines. The existing farmstead is in that southwest corner. It does include the residence and some existing agricultural buildings. Again, the proposal is for 51 single-family lots. They range from 60-foot to 75-foot wide. Again, standard single-family product proposed on those. The developer is not proposing an HOA with this smaller sized development, as there is no monument sign proposed, no cul-de-sac islands, and no common outlots where there would be landscape or items that need long-term maintenance. I also want to make note about the neighborhood meeting that the developer held on March 11th. About 15 residents attended to gain some additional information from the developer. Some of the biggest concerns that we did hear were maintaining those tree buffers, especially along the Silverwood development, to maintain that natural buffer between the developments. Concern about the distance between the houses, what that will look like. Access to park areas, as well as concern from the property owner that owns the parcel just to the east, and how the development will affect the alignment of his driveway, which currently kind of borders the property line there. So the developer and that property owner are working closely together to iron out those details. This parcel is guided in our 2040 comprehensive plan as low-density residential, so that's the 1 to 4 units per acre. The developer is proposing 2.03, so right within that range. Access is proposed off of 65th Street, as you can see. This access location is approved by Washington County as a part of their access management plan, which has done some intensive study of county roads within the community and indicated appropriate access locations that are the safest for residents as development continues. Access to the 3-acre site will be maintained until such time 65th Street is improved. At that time, that access will need to be removed and the residents will need to access through the future Langdon Hills development.
Who's going to be financing that, relocating that driveway? Is that part of the developer's obligation in this?
Nope, because it won't have it happen as a part of this development.
Okay.
Access will also be from the north. There'll be a connection between the Langdon Hills development and the Eastbrook development to the north, as well as 63rd Street, as you can see, will connect within the Silverwood development on that east side. As we typically require, sidewalk will be required on one side of each street. Those sidewalks will connect with, again, the neighboring developments, Eastbrook on the north and Silverwood on the east. We will require, as a part of this development, the trail along 65th Street, that segment be installed, as we do typically with developments along 65th Street, to continue to make those connections with the trail through that area. Oops, excuse me. Park access, again, a concern raised at the neighborhood meeting. The 2040 comp plan does not guide a portion of this parcel for park area, but I thought this image gave a good idea of where other park areas are within the community and easily accessed through our city's vast trail system. And not only the trails, but the sidewalks within developments as well that allow for that connectivity to these parks, not only to the east or the west, but I know Cottage Grove Elementary is on the south side as well, with some play equipment there. The development is proposing, as you can see, just 2 storm basins, outlet A and outlet B. These basins or outlets will be required to be deeded to the city for long-term maintenance. Water service will be provided off of a water main within 65th Street and sewer connected at 63rd and Silverwood. Both of these neighboring properties on this image, as I've shown, have been what we call a ghost plat. So we want to make sure that these 2 neighboring properties fit into development in the future with this currently proposed development. So as you can see, I know this image is shifted, but this is ultimately that parcel that is to the east. So we will require, as a part of this, that utilities are available at such time this parcel does want to develop. as well as the existing farmstead, which is technically in that southwest corner, that utilities will be available for that parcel and that property owner when they so choose to develop. An individual tree inventory was conducted on the entirety of the site. I thought this image gave an awfully good indication of where those tree buffers are that the developer has indicated they will be maintaining, especially along this easterly property line. These buffers that are indicated as being preserved within the inventory, that is held fast through the entirety of the project, of the development, through the grading, through the building. So those trees will be maintained along those property lines. Additionally, the developer is proposing to remove approximately 39% of the qualifying inches on site. Now, just to make note, they are only permitted to remove 35%, so they're just above that threshold. So those additional inches or qualifying inches do need to be mitigated. So there are a handful of trees that the developer will need to plant to replace those additional inches that are being removed. Typical landscaping required for each single-family lot: 4 trees and 10 shrubs, along with a boulevard tree, 2 boulevard trees required on each corner lot. We will also require a bit of landscaping to be proposed along 65th Street, as we want it to continue to maintain that corridor through 65th Street as these parcels continue to develop. The applicant has indicated they are in fact a custom home builder, so each home will be customly built, a lot of range in varied architecture and style. Price range, as you can see, from the upper 300s to even potentially the upper 500,000. The size of these homes, the developer has indicated, is about 1,200 to 1,800 square feet per main living level. So there's quite a range there, but again, are proposing to vary their architecture so each home will have its own unique flair throughout the development. So with that, I will leave the recommendation, but I am available to answer any questions. I also know John Anderson with Distinctive Design Build is available to offer any additional information as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for staff? Okay,
Yes, I had a few questions.
go ahead, state your name.
Commissioner Britton.
Go ahead.
So first question is with the plat, the ghost plat that was shown to the east of the property, where is the drive access going to exist for those? I wasn't quite clear on that. Is that from the other development?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Britton, Street B, as you can see, so actually the potential lots will actually access right off of Street B, almost a continuation of the proposed development.
Okay, I understand. I was confused by that, but that makes sense now. Second question out of 3, the existing home, I believe I read in the staff report about a temporary cul-de-sac being constructed. Did I read that correctly? I didn't see it on any of the drawings.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Britton, you did. It is right here at the end of 63rd Street. So that will be required to be a temporary cul-de-sac until such time 63rd Street continues to create that additional outlet from the neighborhood.
Thank you. And the third question is the sidewalk on the entrance off of 65th Street has a portion of the sidewalk that is adjacent to the outlots that I believe are deeded to the city. Who's responsible for removing snow on that sidewalk since there's no HOA proposed for this development?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Britton, this is Ryan Burfine, the Public Works Director. So actually currently the city does snow removal for sidewalks. We do include a condition that homeowners have to do it in case we ever change our policy in future years. But at this time, Public Works would actually be doing that. If it did become a new policy of the city for homeowners or HOAs to do it, the city would still be responsible for that piece of sidewalk. However, because we would be plowing the trail as well, adjacent to it, it would just be a matter of cleaning off that one piece of sidewalk if we did change our policies in the future.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Britton. Additional comment from the commission? Okay, at this time, if the applicant, John Anderson, would like to add any comment or information to the application, please feel free to do so.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name is John Anderson. I represent Distinctive Design Build. They're a custom builder located out of Lakeville. And we're going to be developing this project. There's 50 lots shown plus a 51st lot, which would be the existing homestead on the property. Overall, there's a pretty good review of the project itself. We're looking at doing this all in one phase. And we'll look to start this summer once approvals are granted and have streets paved by fall time. And start building construction out there this fall and be ready to go by the Parade of Homes the next spring. We've proposed the street access points based on the 3 connection points that we're stuck by. One is the access into Silverwood at 63rd Street. The other one is the access to the north into the Eastbrook Plat. And then the access onto 65th Street lines up with the elementary school access. So those are the 3 access points we had to match into. We are saving the tree line along the east property line with Silverwood Development. And there's also some trees in Outlot A and Outlot B that'll be saved, as well as some trees in the rear of some of the lots out there also. Overall, from a house standpoint, we're looking at doing a mix of structures in there, anywhere from a rambler to 2 stories to possibly even some split entries that could go into that site. Being a custom home builder, we typically customize, the homes as the buyers want them. So we have the ability to kind of pick and choose, what plan people want. Per the application, we did submit some general guidelines. I think those were submitted in your packet as far as minimum sizes for the homes, number of stalls on the garage, roof pitch, different things like that. I think that was referenced in the staff report. And overall, we have worked with the existing seller on retaining their property at the existing homestead. Our original submittal was 52 lots, but we revamped that, moved the property lines a little bit, and moved that down to 50 lots. And they've got a 3-acre parcel they're retaining. I've also spoke a couple times with the gentleman who owns the property to the east off Street B, which will be Harkness, and had discussions with him about how that roadway would join his property and how we could fix things as far as some grade issues, some tree plantings, different things like that. So those discussions are still ongoing with him at this point, but we've had some general discussion on that to start. So with that being said, I'm here for questions on any specifics or thing like that, but overall, it's a pretty good presentation of the plan.
Thank you, John. The plan does look very nice. It looks, I think the information you presented is comprehensive. The gentleman to the north, whose parcel is adjacent to Street B, their email had indicated that they're looking for a little bit more kind of assurance as to what's going to happen. Do you have any, maybe from past projects or any ideas what typical screening might look like to kind of resolve any underlying concerns that the adjacent neighbor might have?
I didn't know if I heard everything. Are you talking about the existing parcel east of Street B?
To the east, what's eventually going to be outlot, the 4 additional lots, and then outlot C and D. I was part of the presentation, but we got an email from that property owner stating that they had been in contact with you, but they still had some uncertainty about what ultimately is going to happen, and they were hoping to get a little bit of clarity on that. So what I'm looking for is maybe just some ideas of what some typical screening might look like between those 2 properties as a temporary, screening, whether it be trees or.
I think you're asking about screening, if I'm not mistaken. So we had some discussions about originally they're putting some screening. So as the road comes in off 65th Street, kind of in that Outlaw D and along the edge of his property, maybe some additional pine trees could be put in there after the street's built. That would screen the lights from coming in there at evenings and nighttime. I know there's some trees along Outlaw C, kind of northwest of his existing shed. Those trees are going to remain, but there would be some trees along the very western side of his house that would be removed. A lot of those trees are currently on our property at this point, and we could add some more trees on there after construction. Today, Doug and myself had a conversation about a fence as a possibility. I don't know the exact details of where that could go or what the city requirements are off the top of my head there. But the initial thought was we have the ability to take some of the trees on our landscape plan and put them over in that area for screening from his residence from Street B. Hopefully
Okay,
that answers what you were asking.
yeah, that does. Thank you. Additional questions for the applicant from the commission?
Mr. Anderson, this is Derek Rasmussen. I have a question along those same lines I'd like to ask. When you turn onto Street B, it's almost like you veer off and it hugs Mr. Doug's property line there. It kind of, you come in and it veers east, I guess, right up on the property line. Then I'm looking at Outlet B, which looks like it's a drainage area to our west. Is there any possibility to shift those 8 or 9 lots in that street to even, 10 or 12 feet even, or a minimal distance to the west, which would give that other property owner just a little bit more buffer, make it a little more comfortable for his property?
That would be something that could be done. I know the engineer, Pioneer Engineering, that did the plans for us, has kind of explored that option. And what we run into with a little bit of the problem is the sizing of the pond. And if you move everything over, all the ponds tend to move to the west as well. And we already have a fairly steep slope coming up that pond location up into the existing residential homestead, and then up along the basin to the kind of northern basin. There's a tree line there that we're trying to save, and all those trees along that basin are currently being preserved. And we're trying to not push those basins into that tree line to remove trees as well. But it is possible. I'm not an engineer to say one way or the other for sure what could happen. The reason why we originally looked at it right along the property line was to give that property access for future development. With that street being built, someday if they ever decide to sell, you could do a very easy development because the streets and the services would already be there. Part of our discussion was outlots C and D. I know it says in the report they'd be deeded to the city, but part of our conversation was we would deed those to that property owner for additional access. And at some point in time, if he did decide to sell, he could use those outlots for future development land to square off those lots. So it's something that we could look into, but it would take a redraw of the entire pond area, which is something I'm not exactly sure where everything's at from a design review approval standpoint. So.
Understood. I appreciate it. There also seems to be a little bit of misunderstanding on the property lines. I'm assuming you've had this surveyed and staked and had a chance to review with that property owner, and you guys are on the same page as far as property borders and property lines.
Yes, we did have an Alta survey done, and the line that is out there or on the plans is the line based on the Alta survey. When we got that survey back, we noticed right away the driveway encroaches across our property, as does the overhead power line that services his house with utilities. And there's also quite a few trees along the west side of his driveway that are also on our property. We talked after the neighborhood meeting on March 11th a little bit about that. And I don't know the background or the history, but he had mentioned that at one point the line shifted, and maybe that was when Silverwood was developed. I don't know if that's the case or not. I just know what we have surveyed is based on an Alta survey on the deeds that are recorded at the county at this point. So there is encroachment by those driveway, by the trees, and by that power line currently on our property. And we had said that we can work with them to possibly redo those driveways and put new ones in off of Street B, help them with the underground for the electric to get rid of the overhead, and also, get everything stubbed in for them for any future possible development. But the property line is based on an Alta survey.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright. Any additional comment from the commission? Okay, seeing none, we will open public hearing. This time, anyone wishing to speak for or against the application may do so. Again, using Zoom, you may post a question using the Q&A option, or you may use the raise my hand option and ask the question.
Q&A, there's a question about the width of the streets matching Silverwood. Just, yeah, states that there's a question.
All right, we've got a question from an anonymous viewer. The question is, will the width of the streets match the Silverwood or Eastbrook development?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and for those out in the audience, Ryan Burfine, Public Works Director. It'll match the Eastbrook development, 28-foot width streets. That's the city standard that we use. They were slightly wider in the Silverwood development back in that era, so there will be a taper down to match into that size. It'll be tapered over a 50-foot distance, so it'll be really not noticeable for drivers. We tapered over a long distance, so you don't really see that. That's fairly typical for that to happen for developments that abut older neighborhoods with different size streets, so no real issue there from maintenance or plowing or anything like that. So,
Do you know what the previous standard width is and what the new standard width is going to be?
there'd be a 32-foot street in the Silverwood development. So we had a similar situation with the Hamlin Heights development last year, where it was a slightly narrow street section that we tapered down to. So,
Okay,
yep.
thank you. We've got another question here from Ryan. Can you speak to when 65th Street modification may be made?
Yes, Mr. Chair. In terms of this development, they will be required to install turn lanes. The developer will, meeting county standards, which we had initial conversations with the county on, and the county is currently reviewing their plan. So that would take place with the development, provide right and left turn lanes into the development. It would also provide a left turn lane into the school, which currently does not exist, replacing that bypass lane, making that much safer as well. So no other improvements at this time. 65th Street's a very low volume roadway, always intended to remain that way, a 2-lane roadway, no plans for expansion in the future.
And that would be construction that would take phase during the grading phase of the development?
During the street and utility portion, so likely later this summer, be complete by the end of the summer into fall.
Okay, thank you. We'll give it a few more minutes here, see if anyone else pops in. All right, I think that's it for questions. We'll close public hearing. Further comment or questions from the commission? Okay, at this time, I'll look for a motion. I motion to approve, subject to the conditions stipulated in the staff report. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Britton, I second.
A second from Commissioner Britton. We'll look to roll call.
All right. Chair Kambata.
Aye.
Commissioner Britton.
Aye.
Commissioner Knable.
Aye.
Commissioner Wright.
Aye.
Commissioner Frazier.
Aye.
Commissioner Rasmussen.
Aye.
And Commissioner Bigham.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. On to item 6.4, Northwick Park, zoning amendment 2020-022 and preliminary plat 2020-023 with John Burbank presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. There we go. Well, in all my years of service with the city, this is definitely one of the most interesting meetings I've ever attended for Planning Commission. So I really appreciate the talents of the people that put this on and the people that are attending here. So it's kind of new for us, and I hope it's well received. The application that's before you this evening is Northwick Park. It's a single-family residential subdivision. It is located north of Military Road and just to the west of Parkview Point in the East Ravine Neighborhood 1. The existing property has an existing homestead on it and assorted agricultural buildings, detached accessory structures, and it's actually two parcels of record. The farther one to the east is currently and has been past used before winter for agricultural purposes. As a part of the subdivision, those buildings will be going away. This one of the requirements you'll see in the condition would be that the city be able to photo document it before there's any demolition of those buildings. In terms of the architecture, real similar to some of their existing developments, D.R. Horton is the applicant, and they are in attendance to this meeting. There'll be the villa style, some traditional two-story houses, minimum of 1,500 square feet on the Ramblers and over 2,000 square feet on the two-story units. So the actual request tonight is a zoning amendment from AG1, Agricultural Preservation, to R3, Single Family Residential, with a PUD, or Planned Unit Development. After the zoning would be complete, the second request is for a preliminary plat for a residential subdivision to be called Northwick Park that would create 71 lots for detached single-family homes and 3 outlots. In terms of land use and zoning, the property is currently in the yellow area, which is low-density residential in our 2040 comprehensive plan, as well as our 2030 comprehensive plan. The zoning, as I stated, was AG1, or Agricultural Preservation, and basically all those properties you see in that zoning classification, if their land uses are different than that through the 2040 comprehensive plan and the East Ravine Master Plan, you'll see those rezoning requests coming before the Planning Commission and Council as development occurs in those vacant areas. In terms of the lot development performance standards, because it is a planned unit development, they are a little different than the standard. For instance, the minimum lot area for an R3 zoning classification would be 10,000 square feet, and for this proposal, the minimum that's proposed is 8,842 square feet. One of the things you'll note different from this presentation graphic from your report is that because of the smaller lots, the cul-de-sac radius or cul-de-sac width will be different at 35 feet at the right-of-way and 65 feet for minimum lot width. In terms of grading and surface water management, as always, the city works with the South Washington Watershed District, making sure their rules and regulations are complied with, as well as the city's. There are 2 stormwater basins proposed on the project, and they would be in outlots with drainage utility easements dedicated over them, as well as those outlots would be dedicated to the city. In terms of sidewalks and trails, as Emily had mentioned, we do require sidewalks along one side of a local street except for on cul-de-sacs. And the orange lines shown on the graphic here are those proposed sidewalks linking with adjacent developments and for planned future developments. The line you see in green here is a recommended recreational trail that would get through future development a trail in this general vicinity over to the Glacial Valley Community Park, as well as the trails that will be located within the South Washington Watershed District's property that they own, the open space and overflow ponding areas. Those trails would link to the city's trail system, to the Ravine Parkway, and that's why through the city's technical review committee, they recommended the addition of that trail. With Military Road, as in the other subdivisions, we are looking for the applicant to pay half the costs of removal and installation of that portion of the Military Road Historic Trail along the old Military Road right-of-way. With landscaping and preservation as a part of the proposal, they are looking to remove all the trees that are on the site, and that would instigate the city's tree mitigation replacement. And in addition, because of the planned unit development, there would be 4 additional trees and 10 shrubs on the lot above and beyond the boulevard trees. So they are looking to meet their mitigation requirements on site in some of the outlot areas, and then multiple trees on the lots that would be in the subdivision. And this is just a clip of the area to show the identification of some of those planned trees. In terms of transportation and access, above and beyond the Jeffrey connection at the current Military Road, there are 4 additional access points. 2 of those are temporary cul-de-sacs that would be removed as a part of the development as that through connection is completed to the Parkview Point subdivision. There would be a temporary cul-de-sac that will be the developer's responsibility to the north, and that is pending the connection through future development to the property to the east. And then there is a current subdivision in the works to the west. So based on no lots fronting on that stub road there would be no cul-de-sac required there, pending that future connection. The density is under 3 units per acre, where 1 to 4 is the requirements. And with that, we are recommending that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve a zoning amendment from AG1, Agricultural Preservation, to R3, Single Family Residential, with a planned unit development. A preliminary plat for a residential subdivision to be called Northwick Park that would create 71 lots for detached single-family homes and 3 outlots, and that would be pending the conditions found in your staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Burbank. At this time, does the commission have any questions or comment for staff? Okay, seeing none, I will offer an opportunity for the applicant to speak on behalf or add any additional information.
Good evening, this is Mike Sewell with D.R. Horton. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Well, we want to thank you, and we would echo John's thought that this is a new way of doing business, and we appreciate the city working with everybody to find a way to get it done during these tough times. I'm here with Deb Ridgway and Fran Hagan from Westwood, our engineer, so we can answer any question the commission may have. John's staff report lays out a good review, so I don't think there's a lot more that we can add, so we'll wait for your questions.
Okay, questions from the commission for the applicant?
Got one question, please. This is Eric Rasmussen.
Go ahead.
Say, Mike, regarding the additional trail that was requested in the staff report, seems to make a lot of sense. Have you guys reviewed that? And is that something hopefully be added to this project?
We have reviewed it briefly today with our engineer, and he believes it can be done. And after seeing the big picture, we also agree that makes sense, and it's a good addition to our site to provide another connection to the future city park.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions from the commission? Okay, at this time, we will open public hearing. Per previous instructions, you can go ahead and use the Q&A option, or you can use the raise my hand option to pose questions for the applicant and for the commission. Give it one more minute here. Okay, at this time, we will close public hearing. Additional questions or comment from the commission? At this time, I'll look for a motion.
Motion to approve, subject to the conditions in a staff report by Commissioner Frazier.
We have a motion to approve, subject to the conditions stipulated in the staff report from Commissioner Frazier. Do we have a second?
A second, Rasmussen.
We have a second from Commissioner Rasmussen. I'll look to roll call.
All right, Commissioner Frazier,
Aye.
Commissioner Rasmussen,
Aye.
Commissioner Knable,
Aye.
Commissioner Wright,
Aye.
Commissioner Britton,
Aye.
Commissioner Bigham,
Aye.
and Chair Kambata.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. Next, on to item 6.5, variance application V 2020-014.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. We're simply looking for formal approval to continue this item to the April 27th, 2020 meeting. So just looking for a motion, a second, and a vote to do so. Thank you.
I will motion to approve the continuance to our next meeting. Do we have a second?
I second,
Commissioner
Rasmussen.
Knable, second.
Let's try that one more time.
Rasmussen seconds.
Okay. Motion from Chair Kambata, second from Commissioner Rasmussen. Look to roll call.
Chair Kambata,
Aye.
Commissioner Rasmussen,
Aye.
Commissioner Knable,
Aye.
Commissioner Wright,
Aye.
Commissioner Frazier,
Aye.
Commissioner Britton,
Aye.
and Commissioner Bigham.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. On to item 7, approval of planning commission minutes for February 24th, 2020. If there are no alterations, I'll look for a motion to approve.
Commissioner Wright, motion to approve minutes.
I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Wright. Do I have a second?
Second from Commissioner Bigham.
I have a second from Bigham. I'll look to roll call.
Commissioner Wright,
Aye.
Commissioner Bigham,
Aye.
Commissioner Knable,
Aye.
Commissioner Frazier,
Aye.
Commissioner Rasmussen,
Aye.
Commissioner Britton,
Abstain.
and Chair Kambata.
Aye. Motion carries 6-1. On to items 8.1, recap of March City Council meetings.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So March 4th meeting, council meeting, the city council did approve the planning commission appointment of Commissioner Ken Britton, who is obviously joining us here tonight. So welcome back to Ken. We look forward to working with you moving forward. Also had approval of the aggregate industries mining permit and approval for the High Point rezoning and preliminary plat. Moving to the March 18th meeting, the City Council approved the mixed-use district ordinance amendment and rezoning as reviewed by the Planning Commission in February. The council also authorized the appointment of Chair Tony Kambata as the chair for this upcoming year. The council also approved the proposed market rate multifamily housing development at 80th and Hemingway, the former City Hall project, so that was approved. And council also approved Sullivan Pines, the preliminary plat for that development. That's it.
Thank you. Item 6.2, response to planning commission inquiries. Did we have any?
Negative.
And then, I'm sorry, 8.2. Item 8.3, planning commission requests. Do we have any requests from the commission of staff?
This is Commissioner Britton. With the exposure to this new technology, could staff put together some guidelines on the open meeting laws regarding the chat rules that can be private, all panelists and attendees, and what we can and can't do?
I think that's a very appropriate request.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, planning commissioners, we can certainly do so between now and the next meeting.
Okay, additional requests from the commission?
This is Commissioner Wright. Is there any way to improve the audio on your guys' end, actually at City Hall? It's just a little difficult to hear sometimes. Anything would probably be welcome. So, thanks.
Okay, so we'll work on audio on our side for broadcasting purposes. And any other requests of the commission? Okay, we'll move on to item 9, annual organizational meeting. 9.1 is to accept 2020 Planning Commission rules. I'm going to turn this over to the commission and ask for any suggested changes to the rules as they currently are. Seeing no suggestions, I'll look for a motion to adopt the Planning Commission rules as they currently are, and I'll turn it over to roll call. Oh, I'm sorry. First, I'll need a motion. Would anyone like to motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the planning commission rules. This is Commissioner Frazier.
I have a motion to approve from Frazier. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Wright, second.
I have a second from Commissioner Wright. Now I'll turn it over to roll call.
Sure. Commissioner Frazier.
Aye.
Commissioner Wright.
Aye.
Commissioner Knable.
Aye.
Commissioner Rasmussen.
Aye.
Commissioner Britton.
Aye.
Commissioner Bigham. And Chair Kambata.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. 9.2 is election of officers. For election of officers, I'm going to ask that the commission nominate a chair and a secretary. If there are any suggestions for chair or secretary, please state who you have in mind and we can come to a consensus. Let's start with elections for vice chair, sorry.
Vice Chair, yep.
Anyone have any suggestions for vice chair?
This is Commissioner Frazier. I would nominate myself for vice chair again this year.
Okay. I second Commissioner Frazier's nomination. Anyone in opposition to this? Okay, at this time I would look for a motion.
Commissioner Wright, motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve Commissioner Frazier as vice chair from Commissioner Wright. Do we have a second?
A second.
I have a second from Commissioner Rasmussen. All those in favor, roll call?
Commissioner Wright.
Aye.
Commissioner Rasmussen,
Aye.
Commissioner Knable,
Aye.
Commissioner Frazier,
Aye.
Commissioner Britton,
Aye.
Commissioner Bigham,
Aye.
and Chair Kambata.
Aye. Next, we'll look for nomination for secretary.
I would nominate myself again this year, Commissioner Rasmussen.
Nomination for Commissioner Rasmussen. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Frazier will second.
Okay, anybody in opposition to this appointment? Okay, at this time, I'll turn it over to roll call.
Sorry, who was the second on that?
Who is our commissioner to second the motion?
Frazier.
Okay, Commissioner Rasmussen,
Aye.
Commissioner Frazier,
Aye.
Commissioner Knable,
Aye.
Commissioner Wright,
Aye.
Commissioner Britton,
Aye.
Commissioner Bigham,
Aye.
and Chair Kambata.
Aye. All right. Finally, item 10 on our agenda, motion to adjourn. I'll look for a motion.
Motion to adjourn from Commissioner Bigham.
I have a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Bigham. Do we have a second?
Second, Commissioner Knable.
Second from Knable. Turn it over to roll call.
One last time, thanks, guys. Commissioner Bigham,
Aye.
Commissioner Knable,
Aye.
Commissioner Wright. Did we lose you, Commissioner Wright?
Aye.
Commissioner Frazier,
Aye.
Commissioner Rasmussen,
Aye.
Commissioner Britton,
Aye.
and Chair Kambata.
Aye. Motion carries 7-0. We are adjourned.